we speak about the counting of Klal Yisrael, and it speaks about and it has the order of the counting. We count the Bnei Yehuda. Bnei Yehuda is Malchus, that's royalty. It first speaks about Bnei Yehuda, then it speaks of Bnei Yisachar, and then it speaks of Bnei Zvulun. When the Jews traveled in the desert, there were 4 camps in the outer peripheries of the group. And the center camp was known as Machne Shechina. That was the camp of God. That's where the Mishkan was. The Oron, that's where the Shechina was. Encircling that camp were the 4 camps, each comprised of 3 Shvatim, 3 tribes. One of the camps that traveled, and they were the first camp to travel, was Machne Yehuda. Now, who was part of Machne Yehuda? Yehuda, Yisachar, Zvulun. Now, Yehuda is royalty. It's leadership. Yisachar represents the purest level of Torah. As the bracha that Yaakov had given to Yisachar Chamor Gorim. He's the equivalent of the large-boned, big-boned donkey who could carry enormous weight. It's a beast of burden. Carries the weight of Torah. Zvulun is the partner of Yisachar. He assumes all financial responsibility for Yisachar, that Yisachar should not be distracted to any degree from his focus of Torah itself. As the Medrash tells us, that Yisachar, Hayasomim ochel b'piyim shel Yisachar. Zvulun, they would put the food literally in their mouths. Any of their material needs or concerns, it never entered their minds whatsoever. That was the level that Zvulun was dedicated to support, that Yisachar should not be distracted to any degree. That was the level. Yaakov gave each one of his sons a bracha which was appropriate to his spiritual makeup. It's just not, he had a sense of what they were, he gave a bracha. Yaakov, understanding the dimension of the neshama of each one of his sons, he understood each one has a specific mission, and he gave them the bracha that they should be able to address that particular aspect of their responsibility. The 12 tribes, although each tribe was distinct unto itself, but between the totality, that comprised the Klal Yisrael. They were Am Echad. They were one nation. As it says by Sinai, we were Ish Echad, Belev Echad. We always speak about this. When Egypt chased us and pursued us, and it says, Vayisa Mitzrayim Achri Yisrael, Vayisa Mitzrayim, should say Vayisu Mitzrayim. It should be in the plural. Why is it in the singular? So Rashi cites 2 interpretations, 2 pshatim. Either it was Malach Shel Mitzrayim, it was the archangel, so therefore it's the singular. Vayisa Malach Mitzrayim, that's Vayisa Mitzrayim in the singular, or Vayisu, because they were unified, Belev Echad, Ki Ish Echad. They were unified in intent, and as a result of that, they were like one person. So why were they like one person? Not because in their essence they were one. It's only because there was a consensus, we have to go after the Jews. So therefore it says, Belev Echad, Ki Ish Echad. By Kabbalah Sator, when it says, Vayichan Ha'om Kineged Hor, when it says that the nation camped opposite the mountain, it says Vayichan in the singular. So there Rashi says, Ki Ish Echad Belev Echad. They are Ish Echad. What Lev Echad? Why are we singular? Because we're one entity. The 12 tribes, they comprise that one entity. Each of us complement the other in terms of the totality of spirituality, where we say a Jew is obligated to keep 613 mitzvos. But you realize the 613 mitzvos have no application to every Jew. For instance, a Kohen is not permitted to marry a grusha, a divorcee, a Kohen, or a woman who's been defiled. A Kohen Gadol is not permitted to marry a woman who's not a virgin. The Kohen is not permitted to contaminate to any other than the 7 relatives. The Kohen Gadol, the high priest, not even the 7 relatives. So we find the many mitzvahs which only have relevance to the Kohen, the mitzvah of eating truma, eating certain types of korbanos, sacrifices, kodesh kodeshim, the sin offering, the guilt offering, can only be eaten by the male Kohen. So if that's the case, the 613 mitzvahs, positive and negative, don't have relevance to every Jew. So how do we say we're obligated 613 mitzvahs? Meaning the totality of Klal Yisrael are obligated 613, and we're all beneficiaries of those 613, since in fact we're one entity, and each of us complements one another. So when one does something positive, we're all beneficiaries of the positive. If chas v'sholom, a Jew sins, that negative energy or that detraction which comes about because of the sin, that's everybody is victimized by that sin itself. That's the reality. So therefore, each one of us. So we find the first camp that travels is Yehuda. Yehuda is Malchus. That's royalty. Yisachar is the purest of Torah. Zvulun has a level of dedication which is one of a kind, and only Yaakov was able to make that evaluation. Who was the most worthy or had the greatest capacity to appreciate what Torah was, and therefore he's the one who's responsible for his material support. As I said, literally, they put the food in the mouth of Yisachar. They wouldn't want Yisachar to be distracted to any degree. And therefore, when Moshe gives the bracha to each one of the tribes before he passes away, he says, Zvulun, rejoice when you go out to the high seas to do business, because Yisachar is in the tent of Torah. Therefore, you rejoice. You rejoice when you go out, because what is the objective of the mission of this time being spent? It's only so Yisachar should be able to study Torah in the tent of Torah. That's Smach Zvulun. And over there, Rashi cites Chazal. Why is Zvulun mentioned before Yisachar? Because if not for Zvulun's material support and dedication, Yisachar couldn't study. So therefore, the one who's mentioned first, who's worthy, is Yisachar, is Zvulun before Yisachar. And that's Smach Zvulun B'tzei Yisachar B'olecha. So the first camp to travel in the desert was what? The tribe of Yehuda. Now, what was Yehuda? The Gemara tells over a story, and Rashi cites it over there, that Moshe had to be mispaleled for Yehuda before he passed away. What happened? Yehuda had made a commitment to his father that when Binyamin went to Egypt, he guarantees his return. He will, because Yaakov was concerned that since as Yosef disappeared and his wife Rachel, their mother, died on the way, Binyamin is in a position, chas v'sholom, he could die on the way also. So Yehuda made a commitment to his father. If I don't bring it back, v'chotosi la'avi kol hayomim, I will be a sinner to my father for all the days. Meaning I will forfeit my share in the world, in the physical world, and olam haba, in the world to come. And the Gemara says that means cherim. He accepted to be ostracized, excommunicated, even the world to come. And the Gemara says that a cherim, an excommunication, even on a condition, since you have no control whether it's going to be carried out or not, the excommunication takes effect. So Yehuda was excommunicated, even in Shamayim. So the Gemara says that during the 40 years that he traveled, every one of the tribes took out the remains of their patriarch. Yehuda's bones, his remains, were actually rattling in the coffin. Yehuda was not calm, was not settled. Why? Because when Yehuda went, there's what we call Yeshiv Shel Malo, there's the heavenly Torah Academy. Yehuda, being Malchus, royalty, should be the one who introduces things. He should be the first one to speak. He should have a level of clarity that no one else has. Yet Yehuda was kept out. Because of what? Because he accepted this conditional excommunication. So the Gemara says that first Moshe Rabbeinu was mispal prayed that he should be admitted into the Torah Academy. He was admitted, but even being admitted, he wasn't able to comprehend what they were talking about. You know, he said, "You're welcome to come. You invite a wealthy philanthropist to show him the yeshiva. He walks in, he doesn't understand the word. He just sees pandemonium there. He doesn't even know what they're talking about. And then afterwards, they start explaining to him a little bit. He's starting to get the gist of what's going on. Yehuda, when he first came in, he did not have sufficient, he was still impacted and compromised because of that excommunication. Although he was admitted, he still didn't understand. Moshe prayed further. They should have an understanding what's going on. But even though he had an understanding, he did not have the upper hand. And then afterwards, he prayed that he should have the Siyat Shmai, the divine assistance, that he should have the clarity and he should have the last word. Why? Because Malchus, royalty, means that's leadership. Leadership is not only in the physical, leadership is even in the spiritual. And we find David HaMelech. David HaMelech Shel Chai V'Kayom. David was the greatest, was not only was he a king, was he a conqueror, David was the greatest Rosh Hashiv in his time. There was nobody as great as David HaMelech. In terms of any halachic ruling he had given was always correct because of David's dimension of spirituality. Now, so who travels first? What's the first camp to travel? It's called Machne Yehuda. And who is within this camp? The three tribes. Yehuda is Torah. Leadership, which is Torah. Yisachar, which is the purest of Torah. Zvulun are the ones who guarantee that Torah is that purest, that there should not be with distraction. So what's the power of the Jews? Who goes to the front lines first? We come with what we call the heavy artillery, our weapon which vaporizes the enemy. That's the Torah. We find that the Anei HaKavod, the clouds of glory, when we travel in the desert, it would go before the Jews. And what did the cloud do that traveled before us? If there were any these vipers, these snakes, or scorpions, or there was anything in the route which they would travel, which we could be hurt or harmed, it would totally consume it and vaporize it, and it didn't exist. There was no such thing as an incline, there was no such thing as an elevation. Everything was flattened. It says that the Anei HaKavod flattened, all the mountains in the desert were flattened, except for Hasinai. That was the only mountain that wasn't flattened. Because since we had to stand at Sinai, accept the Torah, the Anei HaKavod did not flatten that mountain. But all the other mountains were flattened in the desert. Because wherever, any direction we traveled, that the Anei HaKavod went, and they flattened those mountains. So again, what is the power of the Jew? The power of the Jew is the Torah. To confirm this, when we traveled, the first machne that traveled was Yehuda. And who was Yehuda? Yehuda was Yisachar and Zvulun.